Welcome to Geek Rant. Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're talking about episodes 2, 3, and 4 of the second season of the Rings of Power. God, it's such a mouthful.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yes, we thought we'd have a sort of mid-season reflect, really. We had
Yeah,
those first three episodes coming in one drop was quite a lot, and then
yeah,
now we've got episode 4, so we thought
yeah,
I think we're about halfway through. I think there's only 8 episodes in the series,
yeah.
so it gives us a good point to have a quick sort of reflect
Mm.
on what's been going on.
Yeah, I don't think that it's worth covering each episode
No,
individually as well for this particular sequence. So, I mean, I enjoyed the first episode
yeah,
as we saw in the last review,
yeah,
but yeah, so I was kind of hoping that things would pick up a little bit with the next preceding episodes, but I was bitterly disappointed with how it worked out.
yes.
I don't know what your initial thoughts
I
were.
am. I'm just so bored as fuck with it. Really, it's not very good TV, is it? Really, it's just
Well,
really boring.
it looks good, but other than that, I mean,
The
okay. I
storyline is
mean,
meandering along.
yeah, I was trying to like put my finger on what it was
Hmm.
with these episodes, and just
Hmm.
to sort of throw this out there. And I just feel like, well, we sat down, myself and my wife, and we were watching the Lord of the Rings last night,
Yeah,
and I was just
the
blown
original
away.
Peter
The
Jackson stuff.
original Peter Jackson Lord of the
Yeah, yeah,
Rings,
yeah.
and I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, like, what? I was just kind of so blown away at how much better the Lord of the Rings is
Yeah.
than the Rings of Power. And I was trying to think, well, why is this? Why has this happened? And then there were a number of things that occurred to me as I was watching Lord of the Rings.
Hmm.
And I think that there's the key thing is obviously he's trying to make a film, a work of art.
Yeah.
Whereas as these shows that we're watching,
Hmm.
these Rings of Power are very much a TV show with that TV format. And it's the big screen shrunk down to the small screen. Now, what part of the reason why I say that is because when you create a work of art like a film, like Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
you're very much having an independent object, an independent sequence where that is totally inspired by the original book and not by anything else. The problem with the Rings of Power is it's drawing in so much stuff from everything else. It's drawing in societal issues. It's drawing in arguments with perceptions of this script. There are
Hmm.
different people vying, different voices. This is made at a time when social media is so powerful and there's a voice and it can influence how companies proceed with the creation of their top
Products.
projects.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas the Lord of the Rings is very much about Peter Jackson creating a work of art with his team. Obviously, he's got a great team around him, but and it exists in its own right. And there's a continuity throughout the whole films, and you get things like exaggerated close-ups is like a real key
Yeah.
feature of Lord of the Rings.
Hmm.
Like we all know Frodo's face in
Yeah.
intimate detail, don't we?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that is one key. But with the Rings of Power, it's superficial, and the
Hmm.
shots are much wider. We're kind of we're
Interesting.
brought into within a room environment. They want to show you how much money they spent on the set.
Yeah.
They want to justify the millions of pounds that they spent, and they feel like this is okay. We've got to show this off. It's more concerned about showing how much money they spent on the show than actually producing a work of art. They wouldn't dream of going in on a close up in a scene because you don't see all the beautiful set that they've created. You
Yeah.
know, there's a very much different feel. So people are holding up this TV show to the films, and it's never going to do it because the
No.
people that are making it aren't creating a work of art.
It's an interesting sort of point. I hadn't sort of thought of it in that sort of context. I think a lot of me's been trying to figure out where's the story going,
Yeah,
are the characters developing, that kind of thing. And it's been very lacking, hasn't it, really?
yeah.
I
But it,
just the characters just don't seem to be forming any sort of impression on me. A lot of it, the storyline, I'm forgetting as I'm going
yeah,
through, as I'm sitting through. I'm trying to remember. I mean, there was this whole thing about why didn't he know about the message that was coming from Gil-galad to tell him that Sauron has taken the form of Halberd, and I completely forgot that someone had got attacked on the road, and it was things like that or maybe I
mm,
just didn't notice. It's weird. I just
mm.
feel like I've kind of been drained of any interest into
And
this program.
that's partly what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's how this is presented to
yeah,
us. It doesn't have a focus. It doesn't have a an artistic mind behind it. He's creating something which is trying to give us a message, trying to tell us a story that we
yeah,
care about.
yeah, yeah.
And it's very much about this. That's what I'm trying to understand what it is about this show that's so average and so boring that
It is,
it's
isn't
set
it? It's
it,
they've
it's
how they've accomplished it is quite amazing, really.
the casting
I
is
don't,
terrible on many levels.
yeah,
That has not
yeah,
helped.
no,
Casting is absolutely terrible.
yeah,
I just the actors I quite like Gandalf, the actor who plays Gandalf.
right,
I think he's got a certain gravitas about
presence,
him.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but the others, they're it's just so I'm so confused by this whole thing. I thought maybe they might have done something better with this second season, but it is terrible, and it will be the last season, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, you say that. I mean, the thing is, have they got to the point of they've invested so much in this and they've pushed this, because they've put a lot of money into it. Are they going to say we can't cut our losses here? We're going to have to keep
Mm,
going. Um, but I feel like, I mean, we've had over 4 hours worth of film
mm,
here,
mm.
and not a great deal has happened. There's been a sort of very meandering sort of storyline. Uh, we need a bit more. I know they were looking like they were starting to create some more rings, but we need a bit more of that.
Yeah, that's kind of
Um,
come to an end, isn't it? That
yeah, yeah.
very weird.
That,
That the promise in the trailer that they showed at the end of the first episode,
hmm,
which they did big old billing. They threw some stuff in that people were asking for,
hmm,
and none of that's come to fruition. We've seen no
hmm.
rings being made, and Gil-galad he's such an idiot. I mean, I cannot get over how stupid he is as an elf that's thousands of years old.
Yeah,
To be
yeah,
so easily taken in by this godlike gift maker that suddenly appeared.
yeah.
I'm like, give it a rest. This taps again to that thing I'm talking about, the kind of the elevation of the elves that hasn't happened. There's no they're not regal.
No.
They're very common, very kind of. In fact, Elrond's looking more and more like a hobbit every episode.
I know. With the
His
way his
hair's becoming
ears are,
curly.
his
His
ears
hair's
look a
becoming
bit,
curly.
yeah, he
You
does
know,
look a bit more Hobbit-like, doesn't
he's
he?
more and more like a hobbit. And Gil-galad, and
Yeah.
when at that point he was sitting down on the chair and looking kind of all kind of funny, and oh, I'm going to lie to these people. I thought that is such a great example to set for an elf. I just felt like again, it's the elf thing, and watching
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, and just in a moment watching Hugo
Yeah,
Weaving.
Hugo Weaving. That's right. Yes. Yeah,
He is a master
I
at
know.
playing elves. Now, the reason is,
Yeah.
right, he actually, it's masking a whole bunch of humor in his
Yeah.
character
Yeah.
because he has to play these very serious characters, but you
Yes.
can just see there's like an element of humor in the background
Yeah, yeah.
of it. And it's like a wise person talking. And
Yeah.
the direction for him on that must have been is just outstanding, really.
Yeah.
And there's none of that in.
No.
They're all so stiff and up their own arses, the
Yeah.
the elves,
Yeah.
and or they're just stupid. There's
Too
no
much
regalness.
bickering. I totally agree with you. I
Yeah,
think the problem is we were so blessed with great films. Those initial
I love the
three
Hobbit films as
trilogy.
well.
The Hobbit films are good.
I love
but
them. I
but
actually like them as much as the Lord of the
oh,
Rings
do
films.
you? That's interesting.
Yeah, because I just think so much more happens in the Hobbit films because towards the end of the third film,
Yeah,
particularly, it's just Frodo just
yeah.
like looking miserable the whole bloody time, and I did not enjoy that third film and
No.
as much. And overall, I thought all the Hobbit
Yeah, well, the
throughout the
hardest
Hobbit
bit
films,
is the fact that Frodo's and Sam are just crawling
yeah,
about trying to get the ring to the end, and that is it's like when you read the
yeah.
book, isn't it? You know, that's divided into one section on its own, and every time I come to that, I'm like, oh, okay, got to get through all this now.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. And I don't
it's a
get
bit
any
like
of that.
that.
I don't get that
No,
feeling with The Hobbit at all. And I don't care what
no,
people say about one book being expanded out over three films. I'm
yeah,
just glad he made the three films because I happily rewatch that whole sequence and be
yes,
very entertained by it. It's fantastic,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
Oh
But
no, they're definitely
yeah,
really good films.
yeah,
It's they got good actors, you know.
yeah,
The cast are well
great cast.
done. Peter
Mm,
Jackson is a good director. You know,
yeah,
he brings out and you
he
know that
understands it. He
he
understands what
does.
it
He
is.
does. He very much wants the law and he wants it to be, you know, as Tolkien would have expected, you
Yeah,
know, and wanted.
yeah.
Not that we could know because he's obviously passed away quite a few years
Yeah,
ago.
but I'd imagine Tolkien watching this new season would be horrified. I
Yeah.
mean, look at what they've done with Tom Bombadil.
Yeah, do you know, I don't this is part of my issue. I don't know all the laws and all the history of them. So
Well, it's an ancient being
yeah,
who
yeah,
assists Frodo
that's it.
early on in the book,
Yeah,
you know, and he
yeah,
makes
yeah,
an appearance, and his wife, can't remember, is there, and then he helps
yeah,
him out against the Barrow Wights later
yeah,
on, just a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
later on. But
Hmm.
I mean, they've thrown him in, and they've created. There was a sequence where he's talking to the nameless one, or whatever, the
A stranger.
stranger,
Yeah.
and
Gandalf. Yeah. Sorry.
well, we had hoped he might be a blue wizard, but he clearly is going to be
Ah,
Gandalf because there's a whole sequence of
yeah,
references to his staff and
yeah, yeah. He
Grand
was tr
Elf, he gets called at
I
one
know,
point.
Brandalf. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and it's like, and there's this whole thing about Saruman being the evil wizard, which
Hmm.
it better
It's
not,
not.
buddy, be
It's
because
not. I don't think it is.
I hope it isn't, because then who
No.
is it? Because
Yeah.
you can't be evil, then good, then evil again, can you? I mean, in the
No.
scheme of things.
No.
But yeah, what was I saying there anyway? I mean,
You were
I
talking
just
about Tom Bombadil and that you
yeah.
didn't
So
like the
he
way he was
appears,
cast. Hmm.
and there's a sequence where he talks with the stranger, and it absolutely makes no sense
Uh,
whatsoever.
yes, yes. I think for me, it's stuff like that that is really blowing my brains. They keep
Yeah.
trying to come up with really sort of deep and meaningful things to say, and it's just like, I mean, there was one bit where the stranger I'd written down because I thought it was, yeah, no one can give you a name. It is who you are, and when you hear it spoken, your heart will glow. You know, I was like, this is total tosh. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Well,
It's
Tom
like,
Bombadil is a kind of jolly, it's
yeah,
a jolly kind of full of
yeah,
life type thing.
yeah,
And this guy, he's just a misery guts, you
yeah.
know,
Rory
who's
Kinnear,
who's speaking, who's he's speaking in such a way that
yeah,
is confusing and foreboding, and he tells him he's got to take on the wizard. It just completely out of character. Someone doesn't understand Tom Bombadil at all.
yeah. Mm.
I felt like, wow. And he's speaking in a really stupid accent as well. That it's all broken, the accent. He hasn't got
Yeah,
it right.
no,
And I don't like this fact that all these hobbits have to speak in a kind of Somerset accent. That Americans aren't going to know what these accents are they?
yeah,
I mean, it's so
I know,
stupid.
I know
I mean, look
exactly.
at Frodo spoken in his normal voice as a
Yes.
hobbit. Now, I know that Sam has his kind of country bumpkin voice, but even so, there wasn't any
Yeah.
need for him to do that. And it doesn't work. Again, it's like the director, try this. Oh, well, we started, let's go with it. There's no kind of like, there's no nurturing of the idea. There's no kind of
No.
realization of a wider
Yes.
picture.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I
Exactly.
felt the way they set the Tom Bombadil room up, it was kind of very quaint and bubbly and sort of, and not bubbly, very kind of oldie worldy. And I just didn't feel there's
Yeah.
any magic to that space.
No,
Because
no.
this is a magical character and he's married to a
Yeah.
magical woman, and
Yeah, yeah.
and he references her there, and
Yeah.
he says she's not there. It's all kind
Yeah.
of all really weird, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what have
I
they
know,
done
I
here?
know,
And then the Harfords, and they're making up all this history for
I
the
know.
Harfords and the Saw, whatever they're called. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? What has that got to do with anything whatsoever? And it's
Yeah.
so
Well,
basic.
I just I've seen so much Hobbits in the past. I'm like I don't want to see Hobbits anymore. These are,
But I would,
you know,
if they felt like there was any justification for having them in there,
yeah.
then it would be fine. You know,
Because
if yeah,
I
there was
know,
any
I
storyline.
know, I know that you know, you got Bilbo, you got Frodo, they get involved in the major story in the later
Yeah,
period. But to me, they were kind of like the exception to the rule. You know,
yeah.
they kind of got pulled out of their little area. You know, they kind of stayed in their little shire. And I suppose what they're trying to do is set this up that, you know, their people in the first series were very nomadic, wandering around, you know, they'd set up camp and move on, you know, before I suppose
Where does that come from?
that's kind
Yeah.
of yeah, they're trying to make that the history, and then when they've seen these people in the deserty sort of terrain, oh, they live in little holes in the ground, you know, and they're trying to now. So I presume you know that will kind of lead to what hobbits really are, but
They could have done one thing that would have really even endeared these Harfords to the
mm,
storyline.
mm.
They could have made them a point of entertainment, like they did with
Oh,
Mary.
they tried, didn't
No,
they?
no, no, they
There's
could have done, but they tried. They didn't, and they didn't
oh,
succeed. And there's no humor there, unfortunately.
well, they
There's a
brought in
kind
this
of
other character. You know, the two girls meet
yeah,
some guy on the road, and he then
yeah.
starts try. I was just
There's
like,
just they're
the
not
humor
they're
is so bad.
it was bad. It's
You
kind of
know.
stupid. You
Oh,
need
there's three reasons for it. One, B, four. You know, I was like, Jesus, this
there's
is
four reasons for
really,
it, and he misses out the fourth.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's just
Yeah,
like,
it's like, but that wasn't what I'm talking about. What I mean is injecting funny lines into the
yes, yeah,
script.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like suddenly, like Mary would suddenly say something, and it would be funny. You know, and you'd all sort of chuckle. But there's none of that. You know, and
Yeah.
so that again, it is at times in this season they've had a couple of some good lines, and I thought, oh, that might be okay, you know.
Mm,
But then suddenly it's just kind of just got into very base, nondescript writing. That's
mm,
part of the problem with this.
mm.
It's like the writing is very much
Well,
it's
I
neither
think they
really
think
bad or
they're
neither really
writing. I think
good.
they think they're writing real prose. You know, the way they've tried to make the elves talk. I think that's the problem. They've not quite got that alliteration right. You know,
Mm.
it's trying to sound all profound and you know, but it's just they're just not good enough at doing it. You know.
They've definitely been told to speak poshly as well,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
This gets
Which
you,
is
doesn't
a
it?
very different thing. It's a
Yes.
very different thing
Yeah.
than what Liv
Yeah.
Tyler was. Is it Liv Tyler?
Yeah. Live time. Yeah.
Liv
Mm.
was speaking. She was
Yes.
speaking softly and in command. You know, it's kind of
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
Whereas they like,
And
oh,
Galadriel, you know, and Kate Blanchett
Galadriel,
when she was,
yeah, Kate
you
Blanchett.
know,
Wow,
yeah,
I know.
yeah.
It's just like
You know,
what I can't understand. What? Well, I can understand. That's what I've been trying to get my head around. I've been trying to, and it's drawing in. They feel like this show has to reflect the modern age in some form or shape,
mm,
and it's the big mistake in my
mm,
mind. I've
mm,
heard other people say this isn't an original thought in any shape, but I feel that it has come. That I feel that for me, this is that moment of realization when
mm,
they've taken something and they've tried to do something with it that is very contemporary, and you didn't
mm.
need to do that.
No, no,
This has got the IP has its own. It stands out and its own the IP for this show, and you don't need to drag in kind of all the baggage of society and lay it out in a show like this.
no.
We're looking for a reverence of an old text, you know.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly, exactly. I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's, but then they always feel this real urge. They've got to modernize it all. They've got to make it, you know, and it's like, why? Why do we have to modernize it? That it become this something else that it's not, you know? Can we
it's the
not keep the
way in which they
core
do it.
essence? You know, that's what I think's missing. There's just
Yeah.
some, you know, X factor type thing that's missing from it.
Yeah,
And
going on
it's
your point there, that modernization can happen in a subtle way with these things.
yes,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
technique. It's
yeah,
like more character acting
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. But I think
I think what
with
I'm saying
this,
is like when they're
they're
changing
dragging
the
in the
nature
yeah.
of
I agree.
characters, like you said in the
Yeah,
previous thing, when you looked at all the elven characters, there was a whole multitude of different characters, really,
yeah,
and you sort of think that's taking away from what is the essence of this,
yeah,
Tolkien work,
yeah.
and that's where I feel a bit, where they're changing the nature of things,
Mm,
but you're right. There's also that modernization of the actual way they produce the films, and
mm, mm.
yeah, it's. I think I'm more concerned with, essence of what it is being changed and
Yeah,
not being less Tolkien-like. I mean, I think we did sort of say that, didn't we, in the last one, that
yeah.
this isn't really a Tolkien thing anymore. It's kind of like a modern,
It's lost its identity.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
which is a
and it
shame.
is a shame. And I think that they could have. There's always that thing about remaining loyal to the original text, which it is important,
Hmm.
but also there is some flexibility. If you do it with some pomp, if you deliver something
Well, I
that's
mean, there was
exciting,
stuff that Peter Jackson did
yeah,
that was outside of,
yeah,
Tolkien's
introduced our
writing.
Arwen and
Yeah,
all that,
yep. And I mean, in The Hobbit, there's some stuff where the elves are involved, and that's kind of ch changed it slightly, but I
yeah,
I don't
it
see
fitted in,
it fitted in because he'd done it in a way that was, it's as per the characters would perform and would behave.
yeah, yeah. It is bonkers, and I think another thing about this show is they think well. They're holding back information about the
Yeah,
characters,
yeah,
and it's arising all sorts of speculation. Now, some people might argue that's a good thing.
hmm.
In my mind, it's just proved to confuse and confound people
Yeah,
because we know the law, well, some of it anyway, and we're kind
yeah,
of like aware of what's going on, but yet we're kind of confused. It's sending out confused messages to people,
yeah,
and the rings of power as well. You know, we want to see the rings of power, but we didn't see them till the end of the episode, end of the season one, and that wasn't very good when they did
no,
that. And
no,
then we've been tempted with these three rings in this new season, and then suddenly there's no new rings, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
how are they going to fit the rings of men and the rings of dwarves in, and how's
yeah,
that going to affect? I'd like to see some of that, but so there's lots of mixed signals, and it doesn't feel like it's holding together,
no,
you
no.
know, and
Storyline's a
this,
bit weak, isn't
yeah,
it?
well, that's
Uh,
it. I mean, having to use the half-wits so much as they are
yeah,
shows you how weak the main storyline is, because that is surely only a side plot. What the
yeah,
half-wits do, they're the foundation of the Hobbit holes. It's like that's where it's leading. I mean, it's obvious. So, I
yeah,
mean, I don't know why we have to worry so much about that in this.
yeah.
I'm excited about warriors charging across the landscape, battling.
Exactly,
You
exactly.
know,
Having a bit more of
it's
that side of things, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Which is what it kind of was, wasn't it?
yeah,
This great threat and trying to battle, evil, good against evil. You
yeah,
know, we're worrying about the Orcs' families now. We're worrying about their children and are they going to have a home to live in? That's the sort of thing that blows
yeah.
my brains.
Well, they had a great chance to do the Barrow Wraiths
Yeah,
were a great opportunity
yeah,
for them to have this fantastic scene.
yeah, yeah,
But they just hovered there and they stuck
yeah,
things in them. They
yeah.
didn't attack them
And the
much.
scene was so dark as well. I don't know if you thought that.
Yeah, I did.
Some
Yeah,
of the night scenes, I'm like, my eyes aren't brilliant, but it's
yeah,
like I'm really squinting to see what the hell's going on some of these
yeah,
scenes, and it's like
yeah,
you spent all this money on bloody special effects and so on. Why can't we see the bloody stuff that's going on?
yeah. Absolutely.
Do you know what I
Very
mean?
little jeopardy. Very little jeopardy
Yeah,
as well. And in that
yeah,
darkness, you'd think with all that darkness, there'd be fear, be like they'd be dragged into the hole, they'd be in the hole, be fighting.
Yeah.
and then there's none of that, and I just felt like he got the weapons too quickly out of that grave. There was
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
fighting to retrieve the weapon. He should
Yeah.
have been that should have been a little section in its own right, them getting the
Yeah.
weapons.
Yeah.
It should have gone into one of the
Suddenly
barracks
he
and
was just chopping them down, wasn't he?
yeah, and it
And
was like, wow, it's just like you get a chance to have an exciting scene, and
yes.
then no, we'll cut back to Poppy reading something on a big
Well, I'd
stone,
kind of hoped when
no
they got
bearing on the story.
when he created his whirlwind, I'd kind of hoped that they'd gone off
He's
somewhere else and we
smashed
weren't,
against the rocks.
yeah, splatted. That we weren't going to see them again, you know. And
It's I can understand why you'd have little characters in this show. It just brings
I
so
know it
much
is
into it.
it has been an essential part, hasn't it, of the previous, stuff,
Mm,
But then when you read like the Silmarillion and things like that, it's not really that much a mention of hobbits and things in it.
no,
This is in an age when it was more about the Númenóreans and the
yeah,
elves and
yeah,
all
yeah,
that sort of thing, and
yeah.
that's really interesting. It's really powerful stuff.
Mm,
Great legends and it's I mean they've changed slightly how because obviously Sauron in the legends was appeared as Anatar straight away, didn't he? And
mm,
fooled them. This is they've diminished that because you look at that. I know he now looks a bit like an elf, when he's transformed into Anatar. But that's the same character who was Halbrand, who was also admitted to be Sauron. So it's a kind of he won't be able to fool them all the time. In what I get from the original text is he appeared as this Anatar and completely fooled all of them, and then that's why they create these rings, and then he was able to go off and make the One
mm,
Ring.
mm.
It's
Gil-galad, he's a stupid idiot, isn't he? Basically,
well, I mean,
I've heard people praising his acting, but I cannot get over how
really,
bumbly and stupid he is. I can't,
he's
I
got
don't
no
like.
presence at all, has
Yeah,
he?
yeah, no
When he's
presence.
delivering his, he just seems robotic.
Yeah,
It's a
and then stupid and and kind of like diminutive.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like,
It's not. I think I don't know if they kind of think they should be playing like a Vulcan or something, like emotionless or whatever. But that's not true. The elves have got emotions and feeling.
have they
Um,
not seen Lord of the Rings? Have they not sat down
yeah,
and watched Hugo Weaving give a masterclass in how to be an
yeah.
elf?
But that's
You
maybe the
know,
problem. Maybe it was just maybe it was just too good, and it's
there is
so
definitely
hard to
that. I mean,
replicate.
we're
They've
holding
just
it
not
up
got
to
the
something that's so great. I mean,
yeah,
is a problem. As I was
yeah,
saying, that was a work of art. This is more like a kind of a hodgepodge of ideas kind of strung
yeah,
together.
yeah.
There's never someone who could wrestle it down and take
I think
this
that's a good
project,
point. Yeah, I
you
think
know.
you're right. I think there's just too many little ideas and little things. How can we make this slightly different to how it was before, so that it's an original, series? And
Mm,
it's kind of like everything's meandering off and not
mm,
really finding a good direction, not really finding a what is going to be the storyline. How's it going to work?
aye,
Yeah,
God.
some of the bits, the dwarf stuff, really, I don't know, not really enjoying the dwarf bits, and
Well, at
and I,
least they're kind of at least their character seems dwarfy. They're kind of stubborn
I
and grumpy.
suppose,
There
yeah,
is
the
that.
king
I
and
mean,
his, is
that
they're
whole
fighting, aren't they? Yeah,
the singing towards the rocks. I thought, what the hell are
yeah,
they
that
doing
was,
with this? That was so stupid.
yeah, that
And
was a
then,
bit
oh
crazy.
God, yeah. So they don't seem to be in it that much, do they? So that's all right. I
Yeah,
don't mind that so much. The person I hate Arondir. I cannot
yeah,
stand his role in this,
yeah, yeah,
marching around like a grumpy sod.
yeah.
Not appearing wise, just being angry with people,
Well,
and then
they killed off Bronwyn, didn't they? They killed off the
yeah,
lady who
they
was playing
did.
Bronwyn.
Yeah,
She was like a central character in the first series,
yeah,
leading the people on. She was going to be the boss girl, that they all follow. And then
mm,
suddenly, I suppose after that massive eruption, she got killed.
yeah,
And then
done.
Isildur just turns up somewhere else in a different, sort of, even though it was in I don't know. And the
I
horse,
don't
the
mind
horse tracked him
Isildur's
down. The horse
character.
tracked him down and found him. It's
Yeah,
it's just like there's certain things I'm just like, what the hell?
I know. It's and I said at the beginning of that first episode, I didn't mind so much if they wanted to make this action packed,
Yeah.
and if I could always excuse the quick jumps to locations
Oh.
if it was interesting. If I felt like, wow, this is good. Oh yeah, show me that. Oh, wow, do some of that, and then have some reverie and something very elegant, and then suddenly go back into. But no, it's not. It's just like constantly boring, and it's kind of like it just draws out, and I'm like, ah, oh, didn't feel any jeopardy there. No, I didn't. That didn't move me at all. Oh, I'm looking at my phone. It's like,
Oh,
ah,
I started watching these and I actually fell asleep on because it was in an
oh
evening.
God.
I actually fell asleep watching the bit where they all, the hobbits were wandering around in the landscape, and I was like, oh God, this is boring as fuck.
I
Yeah,
know.
it's a real shame. It's a real
What is this
shame.
dark wizard character? Jesus. I seriously, next week I'll be like, oh, I probably won't even remember there's an episode to watch because it's got to that point where I was so bored by it. Although I have to admit, we just got a really big TV, brand new TV, 60-inch TV,
Oh wow, yeah,
and
nice.
it's made a difference watching all these things on a
Oh
big
right,
TV for a change. So that's been
cool,
good.
cool.
But maybe I watched it just for that. uh,
Okay. Anyway, we're bored of talking to that, aren't we?
yeah, we might do a
Uh,
retro film next week. What do you reckon?
yes, maybe we will. Yeah, yeah. Let's have a conflab about what we do,
Yeah,
and maybe do a season,
yeah,
review at the end. Watch
yeah.
the
I
next
think
couple of
that's probably a
episodes,
wise
and
idea.
see if they can claw it back. Not feeling much hope at the moment, but there we go. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. We'd love to hear your comments
Yeah,
don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's been great. We've had a few more subscribers, had a few more
yeah,
views.
yeah.
We'd love having the support, and we want to do more of these videos. So leave your comments, and we'll try and give you a little comment back too. Anyway, speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye.